Wilson analogy or even the FDR analogy kind of captures the same sort of code of personality. So you see some basic building blocks, I would say, of authoritarianism. With that, I kind of think the way to kind of think about this is what are the likely outcomes and what sort of probability do you put on those likely outcomes? I think the most likely outcome is that we essentially reset. Trump loses the next election. Things that used to be norms become laws. So the executive is more boxed in. I think, if I had to put a probability on it, I think that's the most likely outcome at like 85%. You have another option in which you kind of go the way of Hungary, in that you still have elections, but through democratic processes. And Marshall was I think Marshall did miss the point, because sometimes a democracy can't be quite repressive to the people, and there's multiple cases like that, in case of Hungary, in case of others, where you do have the form of democracy, but you have kind of widespread repression of dissenting voices, etc. So I think another possibility is that we kind of go the route of Hungary. It's interesting to note the popularity of Hungary among a lot of the more conservative elites. I think the final possibility is we go straight authoritarian. I don't think the current administration. You have people like Peter Thiel and others who have directly questioned the utility of democratic elections. So, this might have been the last free election that we've had. We'll see, but I think that is a real possibility. I'd put a probability about 5% on that. So, I just think it's a matter of kind of thinking about kind of the plausible pathways a society could go, and then thinking through what are the risks and what are the likelihoods of each of those outcomes.
Thank you, Brent. We'll now go to David. And there are people trying to get up on the stage. I'm not going to get to you. It's going to be David, Steve, Jules, and Meryl because of time constraints.
Gary, yes. Yes, the title, I think, is very spot on. Well, academics have chimed in. There's a survey of more than 500 political scientists called the Brightline Watch, and they're saying that based on a 0 to 100 range of 0 being complete dictatorship, 100 perfect democracy, Trump's somewhere in the middle of a number of 55 out of 100 range. So they say that's a massive drop based upon these expert opinions of what a liberal democracy should look like and act like. We've seen, he's in the thrall of guys like Putin, dictators who've been running their countries with an iron fist. I think he would like to enjoy as much power as he can wield from the executive branch. We're seeing him not honor board opinions. We're seeing the Supreme Court not go above and beyond what they feel as of their right to check the power of the executive. So, is this authoritarian? Well, the history sort of speaks to that. What he does with that power, I think, is ultimately the question, and how our rights as citizens of this great nation are in fact impacted. There's another author named Steve Levitsky. He wrote a book called How Democracies Die. And he's saying that there's a lot of things that are reversible, but if the pattern continues and the nation doesn't check itself somehow, then when do we get these rights back if they're slowly clawed away? And I think that's the fear here. We saw this in the case of not necessarily the executive, but the way that Roe v. Wade was pushed to the brink and then challenged by the Supreme Court. Those are rights that are gone now. They're about chipping away at gay rights for marriages. So there's no perfect system here. I think ultimately at the end of the day, you mentioned the voters voting for this. I don't know if they necessarily could see the outcome of the way rights would be chipped away as they're going into the ballot box. I don't think at the end of the day.
You don't think that his first term in office gave us insight into what would happen this time? You think this is completely an acceleration of anything that might have occurred in the?
Well, I'll say so to your point, I think for a lot of Americans, the reason they're for a guy like Trump is because he's not going to wield this very power against them and who they believe they are in terms of the constituency of President Trump. And an example of that is if I'm white, I live in the deep South. Well, no ICE guy's going to come storm my business and try to put me in handcuffs if I go out and protest per se, or they're not going to question whether or not I've got any illegals in my business. And so I think there's this class collaboration at play here. There's always been this class collaboration at play from the founding of the country to the Civil War. So I think there's a lot of Americans that don't feel that this authoritarianism is anyway going to impact the way in which they live in this country. And so I think there's a divide there with regard to how bad it could get for me, right? If you're a black American and you've enjoyed great rights, you're not as afraid anymore to get pulled over by the police because there's things like the Miranda rights and other things like that they got to read you. And they can't just haul you off to jail without giving you a phone call. I think for people that have had the worst of this country against their rights, hard won, to Marshall's point about civil rights marches and legislation backing those civil rights marches, people that haven't enjoyed full rights to the extent of the law, either due to the fact that they're female, gender, skin color, what have you, then I think we're absolutely terrified at what could possibly happen. So, and we also see this around the world, Gary. We see nation states, first world friends of ours, warning their citizens not to travel here. There's warnings out there. What does that say about us as a democracy? As Our Lady Liberty stands in New York Harbor, greeting those passengers flying here for the first time, worried whether or not the immigration officers are going to look at their phone and not let them in the country. So this is serious backsliding based upon how this country was founded and embraced, in terms of the liberal freedoms that we've always offered to some extent. So I'll end there and let others speak. Thank you.
Thank you, David. In the chat, it was suggested that there is a legal process for deporting American citizens. I don't think that's true. I've been doing some of my little cursory research over the time of the last several speakers. I'm looking at the Immigration and Nationality Act, which allows for the removal at the order of the Attorney General of any alien that's among a class of deportable aliens. And then that's something I don't want to get into right now, what those classes might be. It says alien, it says nothing about citizen. And there have been repeated rulings by the Justice Department's Board of Immigration Appeals saying that U.S. citizens are not subject to removal. In 2019, a person who is a United States citizen is not subject to removal under the immigration laws. Now, there is an exception for naturalized citizens who obtain the naturalization through fraud. In that case, denaturalization may occur and then deportation becomes possible. But that's the singular exception. That being said, I don't think, given the recent events that have occurred where the administration took actions that were then viewed later as unconstitutional by various courts. That this administration, I don't think there's anything that would suggest that they would not attempt to deport an American citizen, whether it's Musk or somebody else. Can you imagine putting Elon Musk on a plane and then his attorneys go before court and the court says that you cannot deport him, and the Justice Department says, but Your Honor, the plane is already outside of U.S. airspace, and so your order is null and void. You have no jurisdiction over it. You can't order that plane returned. Happened, right? It happened. Not to an American citizen, but it happened. Interesting to think about as a possibility. Steve.
Yeah, Gary. I think there's a large component of this that is I'm getting my ox score type thing. Like we talk about the immigration system and the laws surrounding it, and you see discussions about, especially highlighted in Los Angeles, the way that it's talking about these guys. Well, if you don't like the laws, you need to change the laws. You can't have a law on the book and have someone enforcing the law and call the people enforcing the law authoritarians. And I think there's a large portion of this that anytime that something doesn't go a particular way in the Supreme Court, or there's actions that people have failed to take action on, like enforcing the law on immigration, and then someone actually enforces it, that we automatically go, well, they're becoming a bunch of dictators. No, there's laws on the books. There's a process that people go through, and if you don't like it, that's what elections are for. Elect someone, move the legislation forward, and get the law that you want. But don't stand on the corner yelling authoritarian when there's laws that's been passed and people are carrying out lawful orders to enforce what the Congress has sent through the legislative process. So I think that part of this is I'm getting my ox scored in a way that's making me feel uncomfortable. I don't like it, and so I'm going to yell authoritarian. And does Trump have some tendencies to go that way? I think he has some tendencies to want to get things done quickly. I think that may collide with the U.S. Constitution occasionally, but to the degree and scope that I've been hearing people articulate it, I think the two are at odds pretty despairingly. I think if you think, well, what's he actually doing versus what people say he's doing, I'd say there'd be a good 50-point margin between the two ends of that. So I think there's a political component to this, and it's trying to be used to shape public opinion in a way that becomes advantageous. There's nothing new here. I'll land it.
I think that's a mischaracterization of the arguments that I've heard, Steve, respectfully. I don't hear people saying that the law should not be enforced with regard to immigration. I think the objection is to the manner in which the law is being enforced, and especially with regard to American citizens who on occasion are being incarcerated for periods of time by INS without regard as to whether they really are illegal aliens as part of their dragnet approach to meeting the quotas. So I don't think it's quite the way that I don't think that's the perspective of the people who have been speaking on the stage, and I'll let you respond.
Yeah, maybe that, there may be an element to that, but we had a floodgate effect that created this problem too. We just opened the borders wide open, and we let
right, but nobody's arguing that.
Well, and what I'm telling you is, that, there's the whole thing in physics. Every action has equal and opposite reaction. That becomes political in nature too. You create a problem, and the problem is so acute that it takes more than normal procedures to correct the problem. It's like I go in the kitchen and make a big mess and walk away, and then someone comes in and says, "Hey, what's going on?" Well, you're just being overly sensitive. No, the place is wrecked. You wrecked the place, and now I'm here trying to clean up the mess that you created. Is the process perfect? No, but I guarantee you, we would not have the process in place that you see if it wasn't for the absolute chagrin that the American public looked at what happened to their immigration system for 3.5 years, and they just sat there in horror. And now there's someone actually trying to correct the problem, and maybe everything isn't perfect, but the mechanism that's being deployed is a direct reaction to what was allowed to occur. And I think if you don't want to see these things, then control things in a way that people don't get freaked out and say you got to do something.
So in your first commentary, you used the term lawful order, and I think that's a very important terminology to consider, whether the agents are always acting lawfully or not. And two wrongs don't make a right. But thank you, Steve. And we'll go to Jules, Merrill, and Breyer, who fell off the stage and came back. We'll get the last word. Jules.
Hey, how you doing, Gary? Boy, did Steve steal my thunder. I was going to open up. I'm going to open up like I was going to do it. Becoming an authoritarian state is everything that open borders is. Open borders created this authoritarian state. It created it economically, educationally. Look what we opened up. Globally, people came in hating the United States. I mean, this was done on purpose. Drugs flowed, weapons flowed, sex trafficking flowed. We don't have overburdened medically. Our treasury's overburdened. The rumors were this was done for voting in the future. I think there's some truth in that too. And scientifically, we have lost our minds scientifically with men competing in women's sports. I think, and being forced.
So hold on, Jules. Are you saying that yes, we are becoming an authoritarian state, but hey, the reason for it is because we've had open borders? So it's Biden's fault that Trump is making us an authoritarian state? Is that what I heard you say, or am I misrepresenting?
By the way, I want you to know the last 2 times I spoke, you sent me in after we finished. You said something, and you said, "But Jules probably would not agree with that." And all times I would have agreed with it. So keep me on before you get rid of me. I'll answer your question. Yes, I think it started when the pen was making decisions for the country. Let's not forget, they weaponized the government against political enemies. They took to Trump how many courts? 15 courts, 15 challenges to him, everything he did, and his books and records, and it was just ridiculous. He valued property too much. And, I mean, that's authoritarian. And let's not forget that Joe Biden dismissed college loans, which he wasn't supposed to do, and he openly said, "I'll do it anyhow." That's authoritarian. Yes, I say it started then. Even Obama kicked out illegal aliens. He had his own faults, but the authoritarian state started with Joe Biden. And believe it or not, I'm not blaming Joe Biden. There was a group of people.
The ability of the president to do that stuff is 245 years old.
That's what Joe Biden is, 245 years old.
No, you're missing the point, which is not Joe Biden's fault. It is the fault of the grown executive. Simply to blame it on Joe Biden is not being fair or honest.
I'm blaming it on the Joe Biden administration, and that's fair and honest. You tell me where they opened the borders. Any other administration opened borders like this and brought in sex trafficking, drugs, Well, come on, weapon
Okay, so
company.
we know that we've had a horrible problem with the border, and we know that the Trump administration has shut that down. The the number of encounters with people trying to illegally enter the border was just reported to be at like an all-time low in recent history. Okay, fine. What does that have to do with the several examples that I mentioned at the top of our discussion? Prosecuting CNN potentially for doing a report on ICE block, prosecuting potentially election officials for computers that are not secure, deporting possibly Elon Musk, arresting possibly Mamdani if he becomes mayor of New York.
Gary, you've got a lot of.
What if any of these examples that I use? What if any? Let me ask a question before you answer it.
Go ahead.
What do any of these examples that I used during my opening salvo in explaining the question of the room have to do with the open border problem that the Trump administration has mitigated?
Well, I think Trump is reacting to it. By the way, you just said a lot of possibly. Possibly doesn't mean anything.
I understand that, but this is the federal government. Sometimes coming from the.
You think
But to go ahead if you want to finish my point for me. I didn't know I was going to say. I didn't know I was going to say overreaching, but thank you for telling me what I was about to say, because I'm clearly not articulate and can't explain my position myself. This is the federal government, sometimes from the mouth of the president himself, floating these propositions. And by the way, the Justice Department has been charged with investigating some of this. So, yes, I said possibly, and I didn't say we were authoritarian. The question was, is the United States becoming an authoritarian state? And your answer to all of this is, well, yeah, but it's Biden's fault because of all the people who crossed the border. That's your answer to it. I see your answer, and correct me, I'll begin one more time to straighten my ass out on this as a total non sequitur.
I'm not trying to straighten your ass out, Gary. I was actually.
If I'm wrong if I'm wrong in saying that what you are proposing is a non sequitur, tell me how I'm misunderstanding your position.
No, I think it started the Democrats and largely the Biden administration. As you know, I was a federal agent. I was an IRS agent, not in the exempt organization the department, which had authoritarian rules to stop the Republicans. Okay, I couldn't believe it when I heard it. The Lois Lerner fiasco. I mean, that's authoritarian. That was during, I think, during the not the Biden administration. It probably was the Obama administration, but still, that was an authoritarian act. And I just see Trump reacting and being challenged by lower courts who have no right to challenge executive decisions. Marshall's not saying anything. Okay. And I think authoritarian. I wasn't thrilled with what happened January 6th, but I know a lot of those people did not receive due process. And they couldn't see lawyers. They were locked in solitary.
That's absolutely not true, Jules. I'm going to move on. There was due process. You know, you may not agree with the manner in which those individuals were prosecuted, and I'm sure you clearly do not agree with the decisions of the various courts. But to suggest that they were not afforded due process and were not allowed to consult with attorneys when in fact, in every case, they were represented by counsel is a total misrepresentation of the facts. You could say that the prosecutions were overreach. That's a legitimate argument that some people might agree with or might not. But the facts that you attempted, you have your right to your opinions, but not to your facts. And that was totally unfactual. Merrill and Breyer, Cove, I'm sorry I can't get to you. And I'm going to try to get both Merrill and Breyer in because I'm in my drop dead time that I got to be out the door.
I'll go fast. I'm not going to bloviate. I will hang on to something you said about the press. I really do deeply resent Trump going after the press. And you can tell me, oh, Obama did this, or so-and-so did that, or so-and-so did that. I don't care.
Well, as a matter of fact, I think you were with me on the previous platform. I think you were. If my timeline is accurate in my mind, when Rosen was attacked by the Obama administration, and I was very strong in my condemnation of that. What happened to Merrill? Oh,
Since I remember Fonda, that she's here.
I don't know why she fell off the stage. But, so to say that, well, because Biden did it, that justifies or gives us reason to ignore that Trump is doing it is, doesn't, you can't, I don't know how, I just don't even know how to respond to that kind of argumentation. So thank you for bringing that.
I also want to say something about this choice of articles. You mentioned that. I posted something and I rarely do, by the way, in the critical thinking forum because I don't want to argue. But I did post something and somebody jumped on it and said, how could you post something from the Huffington Post? Blah, 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 blah. I don't care. People say the Associated Press has a bias. Everybody talks about the biases. How about just talking about the facts? Take a look, read the article. If it's factual, why do you care if it's got a bias as long as it's factual? And then you do what you want with it, but you've got the facts. So that's something that really matters to me. Coming into office and saying, and wanting to destroy government institutions and to destroy the press, that is the very beginning of authoritarians or dictatorships. That does matter to me. So that is something that I pay attention to. And lawlessness. We had Bill Barr said lawlessness. He wanted a president who was lawless. We think we're getting one right now. I think it's just about, and I'm ashamed of our Supreme Court for saying that a president can commit crimes as long as he's doing it as a president. That troubles me. There's a lot. The borders, okay, yeah, we've heard that before. That doesn't change how they are. That doesn't change that very quickly. You're trapping people. They are going to court. They're showing up at court for the process that is the legal process for them. And then right during that hearing, Trump dismisses the hearing so that their process is dismissed and they walk out of that courtroom and ICE is right there. And I don't like that. That one bothers me. And by the way, nobody can say, oh, Merrill's a Democrat, because not declaring that right now. Then there's so many other issues that, and did he get elected? Honestly? Well, why do you think he's elected now? But you have all these people that you want to run for office that are election deniers from before. I'm not quite understanding that. And I don't understand why laws should be enforced against somebody who is violence against officers, but not against January 6th. That's it. Those are just some of the things that trouble me. And yeah, I do think we're leading in that direction because I think we have a president who wants to be a dictator or an authoritarian. And by the way, Marshall, if you review the April 5th, I believe it was April 5th marches, those were not about being a king. Those were hands off. I was at one. I could not tell you how many Trump supporters I met, and they did not want anybody touching Social Security. They didn't want Medicare touched. They didn't want Medicaid touched, and I cannot tell you how many Vietnam veterans I met who said he does nothing for veterans. So it's an eye-opener. And it is something to consider. And also, if you're going to tell people to go and talk to their congressman, tell their congressman to have town hall meetings. Thank you.
Yes, they need to have town hall meetings. I don't disagree. My point was, more people should call and write, and they should be obnoxious about it. There was a dude who had an issue with Congress, and he lived in Alabama. This was during the 1980s. And this guy wrote a letter every day to Congress. It was so many letters that Congress ended up having to, this particular congressman's office, ended up having to bring postal boxes full of letters to their congressman. And that moved their congressman to do something. Too many people in America, Merrill, don't do that. Now, some of them because they don't have time, but a lot of people because they don't want to make the sacrifice. If you sacrifice your time, you have to choose other stuff. A lot of the time, people don't want to choose the other thing. They want to do what they're doing, which I don't think is malicious in their intent in any way, shape, or form. But if people don't do that, then the very last check the founders expected to have doesn't exist. So.
The only thing I'll say to you, Marshall, I agree with that, but I want to tell you something. There are a lot of people that do reach out, and they don't always get listened to. That's unfortunate. That is unfortunate.
Oh, 100% agree.
Breaks people down.
You are on the exact same page with that. I'm not saying the system can't sometimes disincentivize people. My point more is the more you have, the more likely the change. But I grant you, if you don't get paid attention to, it's going to zap a lot of your willingness to stick around and do the work. In particular, if you feel like nobody's paying attention to anything you have to say.
So we both agree on, but we each agree on what each is saying. Thank you.
So, Merrill, you mentioned the January 6 rioters. I just want to point out that a January 6 rioter who was convicted of encouraging violence against the police and then was pardoned by President Trump has now been given a position in the Justice Department. Breyer, you get the last one.
Yeah, it's hard to be an American right now if you have strong opinions on the rule of law, justice, consistency, and anti-authoritarianism. I don't know if anybody else feels like they're in kind of a surreal world where they hear people arguing for individual rights, states' liberty, personal freedoms, and then when a president threatens to strip a lawful U.S. citizen of their citizenship and deport them. I tried to look and find any example from history where this has happened, and I couldn't. There have been presidents that have argued with the courts, certainly, and dusted up. But somebody the other day said, it seems unfair that Trump has had so many laws struck down. The irony is, he has had more laws struck down by the judges he appointed himself and selected than any other president in the first 6 months if we ignore all the others. The people he says, if he has good temperament and judgment, the people he selected are saying he's violating laws in an unprecedented way. Violent disregard for the U.S. rule of law and law enforcement, quoting from a judge he selected and put to the bench. I tried to find any example in history of a president threatening to deport U.S. citizens. These are the moves authoritarians make. ICE, earlier there was a comment that we don't know what these people wanted. I live streamed on Clubhouse and some of the people were in the room, my local protests. The messages were very explicit. There was a huge amount of messaging that ICE is becoming what every authoritarian leader uses. They don't have the same standards the police do. They're taking U.S. citizens and detaining them. I had a friend, born and raised in America, can't get any more American, never actually been out of the country in his life. Both parents were Americans. He was detained for, I think it was like 13 hours because he didn't have his birth certificate on him. English-speaking guy who works at a local store. It was insanity. But he can't sue. It's not the police came and actually tried to back him up and ICE told the police to back off. This is the secret police SS step. ICE hasn't existed for almost all of American history. They were formed in 2003 and reacted to September 11th.
ICE is not the SS. I'm making that.
Hold on, Marshall. Hold on. ICE was founded in 2003 after September 11th with a specific metric, and it's been expanded. The reality is, and if anybody wants to look this up, we don't know what powers ICE has. We don't know what limits. They're not officers. They're kind of federal marshals. They're also not federal marshals at times. They operate with an open mandate, and you have a president who's bragging about locking these people up next to alligators for show. It is the question
Well, they
is
are
this authoritarian?
certified federal law enforcement, right? They are certified federal law enforcement officers.
They are certified, but we also have no standards for the certification. They don't have to show rank or insignia like the military. They don't have to show face and badge number like the police. You can't even know who detained you because it's considered confidential. What would be the difference between this and a secret police? They don't show their face. They don't show their badge number. They don't show their insignia. If you request any data, it's considered a state secret. They are rounding up brown and black people. They are rounding up brown and black people, and now they're stripping those people who are legally here of their citizenship status. Tell me what's the line. Now, the newest thing, Marshall, your party out of line. Marshall, your party's president just said that their next move is to strip lawful U.S. citizens of their citizenship, to go after democratically elected voters.
Well, I don't like it. There is a process.
I don't care if there was a legal process to execute a Jew in World War II. That doesn't make it right. This is wrong. You are, the point is the laws just need to be enforced at this point. The president isn't honoring those laws. You have more criminal
convicts. What ICE is able to do than change the laws around how ICE deals with people.
That is exactly what all those protests were calling for. They were saying, don't cut our Medicare, don't give tax.
One bill,
the
a single bill that was
Marshall, the first thing they said was don't pass the, quote, big beautiful bill. I love the name this president likes to use like a toddler. There were open signs everywhere. They were saying abolish ICE specifically. Roll it back, don't expand it. They were saying, don't get us involved in foreign military conflicts. Now, by that argument, the civil rights protest, which largely said, how about in America, the formation of our country, no taxation without representation? This argument that they need to write more, express more. The truth is, Lisa Murkowski got hundreds of thousands of calls and letters and told the House not to vote for the bill she just passed and signed it anyway.
Lisa Murkowski,
and she said, hold on, Lisa Murkowski said, Lisa Murkowski said she is terrified of President Trump and democracy is at risk. When the party members of the president,
not representative of most of the Republican Party in any way.
Marshall, argue with Lisa Murkowski. Argue with her, a democratically elected senator. Argue with all the senators that have stepped down. Argue with all these people before they come.
Actual language to make law. Just protesting and holding up a sign saying
Marshall, don't pass the bill. Don't lower taxes on billionaires. Give special write-offs for tankers. Tax green energy. The anti-tax people want to raise taxes. This bill was a joke and a mockery, and the only way half the senators would vote for it is if they got special pork cutouts. We know what is going on. I understand it might hurt, but you and I have had conversations about your fears of this authoritarian leaders. So have most of the people here. The reality is this is authoritarian. We don't need to stay becoming it's there. Is it all the way into this? There were still laws honored in World War II Germany and Italy. The scholars of authoritarianism on an international level used to say this might be too far. Now they're considering it a proto-authoritarian state. Now some people are saying it's crossing over. International countries are having to give warnings as lawful Canadians are detained. Canada's having to say, what happened to our citizen that died in your detention center? How did they die? What agency do we ask where it's not considered a state secret who died under your protection? It is already there. And this newest bill just hurts probably everybody in this room. I don't know if any of you are billionaires. There's 535 billionaires that will benefit wildly from this bill. But the average person will not. And certainly veterans and those suffering and children will benefit the most. It's estimated that 30 to 60,000 people will die extra a year. And there's no estimate that cuts that out. There's not a middle. In terms of this rhetoric that immigrants are so incredibly harmful, I don't think there's more than one or two indigenous people on here because most of them were killed in the founding of our country. Maybe y'all cool with it, maybe not, whatever, that's up to you. But the reality is we all came here because somebody came here in our family without papers. or you're one of the few immigrants that have come here lawfully over the last 50 to 100 years. My family's been here for generations, and they came here from a boat. Great-grandfather came here from Greece with nothing, with one suitcase and $5. He didn't have any paperwork, he didn't have anything. Drove into the country, and they're like, okay, you're here, you're good, get a job, go work. And now all of a sudden the people that did that show up to the courthouse, that are following all their rules, 6-year-old kids on chemo that have violated no laws, show up for their court hearings, and we deport them. And if anybody, Joe Rogan is going, are you fucking crazy? You're hearing mothers wailing with the most primal human screams at having their child as they're dying deported from the country. We've become so competitive, we've lost our humanity. This is authoritarianism. We don't need to become one when we already are one. And that's not to excuse anything from history that's also been authoritarian. We have done wrong before in America. We will do wrong again. And I'm so tired of the competitiveness. Let's blame Biden. Let's blame the last president. We only have the Congress, the Senate. We have, the presidency. We have most of local law enforcement and most governorships. But you know what? It's the last old guy I said was senile and weak's fault that I'm oppressing all of you. I'm tired of it. And I'm an American. This bill will screw over everybody in my family. And the moves that are being made will screw people that aren't in my family. And if y'all don't care about them, who are we as Americans? If you don't love every American and the people that are coming here to become Americans, which is how we all became here, then I question whether we're really Americans anymore, or we are the authoritarians internally that we claim to hate and want to fight against. And I'm really exhausted and burnt out, and it makes me question what I feel as an American when I see our actions. And I understand that we've all not been proud at some point of what America's doing. But if we can't sit here and own it, if we can't own the hypocrisy and the terror, and we can't see what's going on and who's being hurt, then we've lost a part of ourselves. And I don't think we deserve this country anymore half as much as the immigrants that cross borders to come work, have a decent job, raise their kids, and have a generation that has it better than them.
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, I gotta close. I gotta close the room. Wait. Yeah, it's way too late. I'm sorry. Folks, we're here Monday through Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. New York time. So till 5, or today till 7:07 p.m. So until 5 p.m. New York time tomorrow. For the next edition of the Critical Thinking Forum, everybody be safe, be well, and peace out.
I want to know if Combs, Fat Joe, and R. Kelly going to make it out.
They'll make them for on ChatGPT.
Okay, so Trent is doing fine. He sent me an article yesterday at 10:02 a.m. saying this is why many of the Mexicans I live with here want the border closed and support Republicans. But I never got a chance to really read it. So it was some massacre that happened in Trent's front yard. Yeah, maybe he's still cleaning up body parts, but it's some massacre that happened and he sent it to me. What's today's date again? July 2nd. The day we won't forget.
What I missed. How many?
No, I'm just saying, you know how we remember OJ when he was sentenced? So I don't think we will forget, we'll be like, I remember.
I'm gonna forget this one.
I don't think this is OJ level though, honestly.
No, it's not, but we're dealt. Well, I know you guys are old. You know, you guys are really old. You know why? Because CEO be acting always young, like we're old. Because I'm still in my 30s. I don't know about y'all. But what I'm saying is that with OJ, we were younger than with this case.
No, it was that. This was it was televised. It was like everybody was very invested. It was just like.
But we had to do with Clubhouse.
And there wasn't as much going on during OJ. I felt like competing
hitting with it as much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a double murder.
Because it was crazy because like Geraldo, he had an hour show just dedicated to the OJ trial every night for like the entire trial.
That's because a black man murdered a white woman. And look, if it was him murdering his first wife, y'all please, it would have been on the 11 o'clock news, the last story.
That's a fact.
But sure, I mean, yeah, anyway, I'm not about to go down a rabbit hole.
Today,
Hold on.
all right, also we have the white Bronco chase that everybody watched. I mean, it was a whole thing.
Well, last night in the Bronx, a Jamaican woman was stabbed to death. Did you guys see that?
No.
No.
Yeah, 40. She was 40 years old. Tamara, first name Tamara.
And what happened to that white guy that murdered that black girl he met online and they went out? And didn't he chop her body up? We ain't heard shit about that. Remember that?
There was 2 incidents back to back.
Beautiful.
That was in the bag. That they put the bodies in the bag.
Let me go look that story up. We ain't heard of it.
He was found guilty.
He was?
He was found guilty.
And did he get 2 life sentences and a double execution order?
I don't know what the sentence was, but we could probably look it up. I think it was.
He got 25 to life, right?
I don't know, but she was gorgeous, and why he went out with her and then chopped her ass up, I do not know.
Oh, Dr. A.G., I'm not sure if they arrested the guy from last night. I don't have that up.
Oh my God.
Information. But okay, so it was her boyfriend. Didn't they arrest? That's crazy.
I think that's what they said. He stabbed her up in the apartment, right?
Yeah.
Is that the one? Yeah, I think they arrested the boyfriend.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what I read.
Freaking
And
savage.
she had like 2 kids.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What?
So they're saying in the news, New York Post, that this Diddy case cost $10 million to bring him to trial, which I'm going to go read more on that. That's crazy if that's how much it costs. And
Brian, you off the mic.
Oh, my bad. Sorry.
Of course, Judge Mathis got to say something. You know that, right? You know he can't go without. Let me see. Let me play this through this. Hold on.
Now, that John Diddy Combs has been convicted of interstate transportation of prostitutes, two counts, and has been denied bail. Although I really am concerned about the assaults against the women, particularly disrespecting black women as such, we must go with what he has been convicted of and respect the jury. And as I had predicted, he should be convicted after hearing in closing arguments of only the 2 counts of interstate transportation of prostitutes. We'll see in the future. Listen to us this next week on the Mathis verdict as we'll talk about the entire case and the sentencing. The sentencing guideline for a first-time offender is 21 months to 27 months for each count. We'll see whether they're consecutive, whether they're concurrent, or if he deviates from that first-time offender assessment or sentence, if you will. Stay tuned.
Is that true? 21 to 27 months, I said.
For each, yeah. That's what they're saying for first-time offenders.
So worst case scenario for him, he's gonna be in prison a year. That's basically it. He's gonna get a year, basically.
But can you just not run them together? I mean, this is now if that happens, I'm really not gonna be feeling well because that for a first offender, 24 months from a 10-year max.
21 months to 27 months.
Yeah, so and you run those concurrently, and you assume you're going to get out early a little bit. So yeah, like 18 months. Yeah.
This judge is gonna run them consecutive.
But that's
You think he's going to run them consecutive?
Yeah.
But his lawyers could get that turned over because there's no precedent for them doing that. Like they almost always running them consecutively.
They run consecutive sometimes depending on the severity of the crime. They can do that. He can appeal, but he probably not gonna win.
But he got
especially after his lawyers like admitted that he's violent. Like yeah, he's an abuser. I don't know. The judge could determine that they have to run consecutive so that it meets the measure of the crime.
And I guess they're gonna have, since they were pouring baby all over themselves and with the weird ass t-shirts in front of the courthouse, people are just strange. I guess they're gonna have a baby oil, not a baby party, but a baby oil party when he gets out. I mean, it's just not enough for me. It's just not enough time. I know it doesn't matter how I feel, but that's wild. Absolutely wild. So I hope he serves every fucking minute in hell.
I guess everybody on social media is talking like the men on Clubhouse. Hold on, I got another one for you to read. I mean, I have another one for you to listen to. Hold on.
It's all talking about parole. Guess what? That's off the table now. The worst he's going to get, no matter what it is, has an exit date. And because he has no criminal history, and because he turned in his passport before he ever was arrested, he turned in his passport and gave it to the U.S. government, claiming he's a flight risk today is not going to work because it did not work at the beginning. He turned in his passport. P. Diddy did some horrible things as a horrible boyfriend to Cassie. But the jury rejected those who testified in this case to make this man out to be a monster. He did some bad things, yes, but he's not the monster the U.S. Attorney's Office tried to portray him as being. They overcharged, this was overkill, and the jury rejected it. And the proof of that is, before they even gave it to a jury to deliberate, they start dropping charges because even the judge knew that the prosecutors had went too far. This case should have never been brought the way it was brought. Now, if they wanted to put him on trial for being a horrible boyfriend, a womanizer, a man beating up a female, he's guilty of all of that. But at the end of the day, that's not what happened here. They put charges against this man, hoping that the hard ones would stick to sensationalize somebody's career. And in the city of New York, I'm not surprised. In New York, I'm not shocked by this prosecution, but the jury stood strong. They rejected that without parole. Guess what? That's off the table now. The worst he's going to get, no matter what it is, has an exit date. And because he has...
That's it.
Mel, who is that bitch ass? Who is that bitch ass?
He's from Fox, this black guy. I believe this says Fox.
Black guy.
It says Fox. Hold on. Fox Face Off is called?
Who the frick is that?
Fox Face Off, it says.
I'm gonna look him up. And he talking about he was a horrible boyfriend. Let's just see. He's showing who he is.
It says Fox Face Off. I'm looking at the chat so you can look at it.
That's the thing. Like, they keep admitting that he's a violent person. That's not gonna work to his advantage. But you know what, Doctor? His lawyers even argued that that's gonna come back to haunt them, I think, in the sentencing too.
The problem that I'm having with this language is they're trying to normalize
make it normal. Oh, he was a horrible boyfriend. That sounds so, innocuous. Oh, he's a horrible boy. He is a fucking demon. Were you guys watching the same shit I was watching? A horrible boyfriend? That's what we calling it now.
Yeah, that's not a good strategy.
He was literally raping his employees. That's a horrible boyfriend. He was literally supplying drugs that could kill someone and at parties and not notifying, whatever, these special champagne bottles, all the other tricks of the trade. That's a horrible boyfriend. The list can go on, and that's what we're calling them now, horrible boyfriends.
That guy on Fox Space, he's actually really funny. He's a really funny guy. He does a lot of basically they put him against usually some type of racist white guy, or white woman making a racist argument, and he'll present his black viewpoint on the thing. Most of the things it says is actually pretty accurate. It's not super nuanced, but he just does a good job of making racists look stupid. I would imagine in this particular instance, the white guy has been saying a bunch of shit about Diddy, and how he's got to do double time. And I mean, I don't think Diddy's a good guy. I just think the prosecution's case was really terrible, and a lot of the stuff they wanted to bring, you can't get a RICO case on this. As much as we don't like abuse, and I'm one of them, to be black and to believe that this is what a RICO charge should be used for is to be black and believe in an incredibly unfair criminal justice system.
All right, I'm gonna play another video of another black man. So maybe they should fire all the hold on, I'm gonna play another video. You guys.
Wait, what was that?
Can y'all hear me? Hello? Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, thank you.
Because I'm tired of seeing us black moguls get took down like that, but I'm tired of seeing us black people go against us black moguls like that. And I feel like if Diddy was a white man who done all this shit for people, I know he ain't paid people, but if he done all this shit for hip hop, if he was white, there had so many white people out there protesting for this man losing his life behind a relationship, And people always used to be on Diddy side. Nah, it ain't that. It's because I'm thinking about 7 children. Y'all thinking about one person. I'm thinking about these 7 kids who get in my kid's position. Not knowing if your daddy gonna come home or not is a burden on the child. So all y'all was like, no, I'm thinking about the damn children, man. So man, I'm glad he's free, bro. Like I've been said, I don't feel he was guilty of nothing, nothing but domestic violence, But the court spoke, man. I'm happy that dude children, man. I know his feeling right now, bro. I'm just happy for the children, man. So, did it sit your ass down somewhere. That's what you need to do. Grab Stevie J in your chair and get the f*** on.
Was that Boosie?
Yeah, another man you got, not you, but a lot of you men look up to.
Yeah, no, I look up to the white
Not you, but we know there's a lot of quacks that do.
Mr. White
Come on, guys. And this is, I hope this is I hope this is teaching people some stuff. Right? Mothers that have daughters, mothers that have sons, fathers. Hopefully you guys wake up that you guys have daughters and sons. But this shit right here, they don't even feel like DV is a bad thing. Yeah, he's guilty of domestic violence.
That's crazy to me.
They're like, that's regular shit. Yeah, we all beat that bitch. We all beat our women's ass. It's like, wow. Hold your daughters tight, because this is a cold, cold world, guys. And there's men like that speak like that think like that are raising sons. We hear that shit every day on Clubhouse. And we can't protect our kids forever, let's be honest. Tomorrow we fucking die, and guess what? Our kids gotta stay out in this world. There'll be adults making their own decisions. Just talk to your kids. This is crazy.
Again, if Diddy is supposed to do the time y'all thought he was gonna do, almost every man on Clubhouse, because a lot of these dudes be, man, they ain't gonna tell y'all, but as a person who did some freak ass shit as a kid, nothing like Diddy, but who's been around, there's a lot of good husbands out here going to these freak parties and doing wild shit without asking enough questions about how the women got here, why are they behaving like this, like this wild shit. And, I just think it's very hard to get the type of charges they wanted to get on Diddy for this. You're going to get him on prostitution, you're going to get him on maybe drug trafficking, but that's probably pretty hard to do. I'm just glad that girl got her money before this, because I do think she deserves it. I think karmically, this is right. This is like the right decision. While I didn't think he'd do 40 years in jail for this, I do believe that this has been a pretty decent hit on his brand. Some mental stress, some emotional stress, some open conversations about what type of behavior you should expect in the industry and what should be respected, what should be tolerated, some awareness. But I did not suspect he was going to do very much time. There was no case for the things they were saying he did. It was very much trumped up in a very much New York type of case. So, but
this was the Al Capone. This was the Al Capone case.
You can't make an Al Capone case out of this. You can't make an Al Capone case out of getting a bunch of whores and drug addicts at a party to do wild shit to your wife. It's just you're not going to get a RICO on that. That's a crazy. People should be mad at the prosecution.
No, wait. They tried
case.
to get. Wait, I think they tried to get Al Capone on RICO. They didn't get him on a RICO.
No, what I'm saying is the RICO is made for someone like Al Capone. It's for a criminal enterprise. It's just not enough on this case to even merit that it is a criminal enterprise.
I agree.
I just don't understand. For the life, let me finish this. For the life of me, little old me, I don't know why the DAs did not come over to Clubhouse and open up a room for all the Clubhouse attorneys to get consultations, because hell, y'all smarter than the motherfucking let me start picking these motherfuckers in and tell them y'all should, next time you guys decide to bring any charges against anyone, come to Clubhouse first, because we got the best of the best motherfucking lawyers on this stage. That's what I'm getting ready to do.
Listen, they just ascended Diddy to God tier dustball status. Like, being a RICO is like going Super Saiyan as a rapper.
So what is?
They didn't even give him a clout.
So what was Al Capone's enterprise?
He was in the mob, but they finally got him for tax evasion.
She ain't talking
about it. Alcohol and prostitution.
It was.
What was it?
Sex trafficking. Yeah, sex trafficking and bootlegging, and then also the big one was
why is that an enterprise, and trafficking for prostitution, distribution of drugs, and sex trafficking? Why is that not an enterprise?
One, they did.
Let me respond to that.
No. Listen to what I'm asking. Hold on, everybody. I'm asking.
You being thirsty, bro.
Hold on. I'm asking the person who said Al Capone, it was right to get, if they charged him with the RICO, but it was not right to charge Diddy with the RICO. And I'm trying to figure out what is the distinct. That's my main point. Thank you. Okay. I'm trying to figure out what's the distinction, because Al Capone had no company at all. He was an individual person.
Okay, so I understand the question. It's important to remember that they didn't get Al Capone on that charge. So even to the standard that Al Capone, I mean, I can only answer your question if you listen to the answer. We don't have to talk if you don't want to hear it.
Are you good? Because then I can answer articulate if you're not going to answer.
I can't answer, but every time I try to answer it, she just starts talking over me. It's not that serious. I didn't win the case for Diddy, so you gotta come put your stuff on me. I can tell you what I think, but if you don't want to hear what I think, then we don't have to waste time. You know?
Who are you talking to?
Patty, I was trying to talk to you. As soon as I started talking, you started saying something. It's late. I had a long work day. I just don't.
That's Dr. H.
You're not talking to Patty.
I don't know what's going on.
Who was the one that asked about the RICO thing?
I asked the RICO question. No, that was
Dr. AG. Okay,
yeah,
my bad.
that was me.
So Dr. AG, it's important to remember that they did not get a guilty verdict on RICO for alcohol.
I got it.
Oh, okay, you got that part. It's also important to notice that. Oh my God! Come on, AG.
The charge out
AG.
The RICO Act.
If I'm not mistaken.
AG, I was trying to get there, but you're not giving me. AG, you're not giving me a chance to answer. This is crazy.
Said. And so when I'm trying to figure out this,
can y'all hear what's happening right now?
That you're making between Al Capone's criminal enterprise and Diddy's quote unquote criminal enterprise.
Your question is longer than she's allowing me to answer.
Because there's no correlation when the RICO Act didn't, what she's saying, it didn't exist in the 1930s. It didn't come until around the 1970s, bro.
I know what but someone said Al Capone got off on a RICO. I didn't say that.
That was Brian.
Now this nigga say he didn't say it. I'm just like, can you mute us so I can answer the question?
Okay.
I'm sorry. Holy shit, y'all. Is somebody... Oh, that's what's happening, AG? Okay, then
I'm sorry. My phone keeps going out. Okay, so let me say this again. I'm not concerned about what Al Capone was convicted of. That's not my concern. What I'm asking is about your statement that RICO, even though RICO is new, it wasn't in the 30s, the idea of a RICO would have worked for somebody like Al Capone.
It's very hard to establish. I'll be quick, AG.
Okay.
It's very hard to establish that what Diddy had going was a criminal enterprise. You'd have to establish I'm still going. You'd have to establish You'd have to establish that the business itself was oriented around the criminality. You'd have to argue that he had certain types of people whose sole function was to commit crimes. And then you'd also have to establish...
It doesn't have to be their sole function. It can be a dual function.
There can be a dual function as well. But usually, like, some of the things that they use to establish that a criminal enterprise is occurring is like stuff like money laundering. Stuff like actual, like, profiteering from the business.
But that's not what's in the statute. That's not what's in the statute, though, articulate.
So you think he should have been found guilty of running a criminal enterprise?
Oh, absolutely.
Can you explain why you think that?
For the same reason that Al Capone should have been.
You ain't shit, Dr. I'm mad at y'all too. But I'm telling you,
that's the same reason. And it's because his business, right? His business was the illegal trafficking in liquor, illegal gambling, he did some murders,
Every person that does illegal gambling and gets prostitutes,
let me finish. And he did those 3 predicate crimes under the auspices of maintaining power and control over his sector, whatever his little sector was. So, yeah. I don't think
from an organizational stand, what was the function of the business that you would have
Sean Diddy Combs is his business. Sean Diddy Combs he is his enterprise. Sean Diddy Combs is
That's not how you're gonna win a RICO case by saying that, though.
You can't. The mafia did that. They had an outfit. It's not like they actually had.
It's not just having an outfit that makes it.
They had a boss. They didn't have an actual business. They had like
Masons on a RICO.
But I'll catch y'all.
So you can charge the Masons for being a criminal.
Hey, articulate. So I want to give you the scenario. Do you remember the 6ix9ine, the group that the 6ix9ine rapper was under? Remember them?
Yeah.
Okay, so they were charged with RICO also. You do know that, right?
People were found guilty.
Well, I don't know which ones are found guilty. Okay, yeah. Okay, right. Right.
Thug was found guilty, and that's because there was a boss. Thug would have been the boss. He had people that worked for him, his soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
And they
But they also had like.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
This is what articulate does, y'all. That's why I'm not arguing with him.
We know articulate. We good.
I'm trying to play the rep. I'm trying to play the rep.
I don't have the energy to argue with him. I'm just trying to let him finish so I can talk.
Go ahead, Brian. It's your turn.
So here's the bottom.
No, Patty was still explaining it though.
Oh, my bad. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, because I'm done.
Okay, so then I was explaining it. I was explaining it too.
Just let me know. I'm patient. I'm in traffic. I ain't tripping.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead then. So what I was trying to say was that Dr. AJ was correct. They could have charged him properly for racketeering, but they would have had to charge other people, and that was the issue. At the beginning, I'm like, why aren't you? Hold on, to be successful, they weren't successful. So I think my idea is better. So they could have charged more people for supporting this criminal enterprise, and there were more people involved. The assistant that was arranging the prostitutes, that was making the phone calls, the bodyguard that was involved in it. They could have even went after trying to like tie in the Tupac work. They could have tried any of those other things to try to make it an actual enterprise, but they fell short of proving that.
So here's the thing. There are unindicted. Wait. There's unindicted co-conspirators in cases, right? I want to give you the scenario, and I always bring this case up because I know about this group really well. The Dr. Malachi Z. York case was a perfect example of one person being convicted in the case, and there were unindicted co-conspirators who testified in the case. Okay, but he went to jail on RICO. I want you to think about that for a second. And a lot of the same charges that Combs is charged with, so is he. We're talking about sex, moving people across state lines, the Mann Act. We're talking about possible drugs, tax evasion, things like that, right? He was charged and convicted of RICO, one single individual, not the other co-conspirators who were unindicted. So we don't need to have multiple parties being the defendant.
But they testified.
That's right.
But surely he wasn't making a business out of it. He wasn't making a business out of racketeering.
No.
And those things that you've listed.
They don't want to hear that.
To make it make sense, he's got to be making profits out of that activity.
That's not true. That's not true.
Okay. I'm just reading.
One second. If you go back to the statute, it doesn't say that you need to make a profit out of the enterprise.
No, but it's one of the key aspects of proving that that's an enterprise that's running around a criminal organization.
Yeah, but
like the easiest way to track you're running a criminal organization is to track profits that are serviced by the criminal organization.
You're right, but you're assuming that.
Well, then how did Young Thug get charged? How did Young Thug get charged? Because he actually got charged with RICO.
Because they had evidence of him actually murdering people.
Right, and which goes to the point.
He wasn't charged with murder.
Selling drugs, y'all.
Like, come
It
on.
wasn't about your music business. It was about gang activity.
It's a literal
So here's the thing. Just because there's no profit involved does not mean you don't get the RICO. Remember, there are people who can make murder with no profit involved or commit arson with no profit involved.
What's the criminal enterprise is being furthered? Like, what business is he furthering?
Having orgies.
Like with Young Thug, like I just feel like personally, and I know y'all are about to go crazy on me. I just feel like personally y'all really don't like him, and so y'all are just like, oh my god, I think he's crap. But personally, I don't want anybody being convicted of something that they didn't prove. They did not prove.
So Sonny.
Like,
So Sonny, here's
I don't want to argue with y'all. I said what I said. I'm listening.
I got you. But here's the thing. I said this earlier in the room. Remember, there were other things that were not probably, I know they were brought up in the case that got suppressed, meaning that they did not make it to evidence. They did not make it into the trial. Okay? And so now you see.
Didn't do it. I thought
wait, hold on, Sonny, hold on. So what I'm saying is, I see why RICO was instated as a charge in the case, and it got weakened when certain evidence were pulled out of the case that should have been there that would establish it even further. But they only needed two actually items to make it RICO, and those items were there, but the jury didn't bite. That's all.
Well, I got lost. Are we still talking about Diddy, or did y'all jump to Thug?
Yeah, we're talking about Sean Combs, yes.
The issue, one of the strategies that Puff was doing was he was basically saying, I'm an entertainer, so the fact that we're intermingling funds is because that's my business. My parties were my business. The sex parties were a part of promoting Bad Boy and Ciroc and whatever else. So that was a clever plan. I just think they had a bad strategy to charge him.
No, yeah, but then you still miss what I just said. I just said that there were other things in that case that were pulled out, right? That he was being charged with initially. I'm not talking about after the trial started. I'm talking about before the trial started. So the jury never saw it. It never got presented as evidence. So when you apply that, and you see why his RICO made sense. So I don't know what the argument could possibly be, but this is pretty simple stuff.
I mean, I'll be honest, Royal, you're not proving that he's guilty of racketeering right now. You say he's enough, but you haven't said anything that seems to indicate that.
Wait, what?
Okay, so there was a confession by two individuals that talked about their work hour days, right? So one was his assistant. His assistant said on his 20-hour work hour days is when he would set up the sex parties, set up the hotels, get the prostitutes in or whatever the fuck it is. So that alone should have been RICO, right? Because he's an assistant working for Bad Boy. And then on his off time, he's getting paid to do illegal activity. Or no, it's not considered off time. He's getting paid to do illegal activities.
So you think anybody that organizes an orgy is running a criminal operation? Because
But again, earlier
most of that is illegal.
Babe, and then you go ahead and do whatever you gotta do. But when we talked about this earlier, right, and something that Dr. A.G. made very clearly, what were the instructions that the judge gave? How did he define, what did the instructions look like? How the people understood the definition of RICO, and that's it, right? But I mean, it's clear that he was paying people with funds to do criminal activity. The guy clearly stated on the stand, and you can Google it, he would have 20-hour work days where he would be organizing, getting the hotels ready, getting the prostitutes in place. Like, this is illegal activities being paid by. It's
I hear that, but like, I know people who aren't rap moguls.
We're not talking about people, we're talking about Sean Diddy Combs, so.
Okay, I'm making a comparative. I know people who aren't rap moguls, some of them are CEOs, some of them are just regular, like, club promoters. And they'll get a hotel room, they'll have a bunch of women, usually one of them is their wife and her friends. They'll charge tickets for the hotel. Some women will take a share of the profits, and they'll do a fucking sex party. I haven't been to these things in 10 years, but they'll do that. And it's not legal, but they do it, and they've been doing it for 40 years. Are we saying every married couple that does an orgy on the weekends with their friends and neighbors?
No.
So you just said
are guilty of a
so
criminal, it is actually illegal. That's what y'all don't know. You're running in prostitution.
So CEOs have side gigs now where they have sex parties.
It's a criminal enterprise now, according to this standard.
It's weird as hell. He's just making.
Yeah, he's making stuff now.
If you're doing a party where people make money for sex, you're running.
No, that's totally different. Are you buying prostitutes? Are you bringing prostitutes?
Is money being exchanged for sexual favors? That's people have gotten arrested at orgies before. This is true. I don't know why y'all don't
want to hear
I guess it's on that state. I know in Atlanta they have clubs where they actually have orgies in those clubs.
They have them all over the United States, but
Yeah, I guess legal in Georgia to have a sex party. It's illegal to bring a prostitute to buy a female and have
not legal
sex.
to profit off of a sex party.
Well, it is legal in Georgia.
But there's sex clubs in Texas.
They need to raise some CEOs of base pay, because if they have to do that as a side gig,
Those sex clubs have
or either
prostitutes.
drive, you know, you're talking over me, or drive Uber or some shit like that. I have never heard of anything like that. A CEO has to rent a room and charge to do sex parties. What's the whole point of charging if your wives and shit is there?
You gotta cover for the cost. You cover for the cost of the hotel.
You're a CEO. What's the CEO of what? Of Williams Car Wash and Shine Business?
They're,
See if you know with the local bodega.
Listen, I'm not trying to
making up. I know, but it be making up stuff.
Lisa, you drunk again.
No,
they're very.
You got one more time.
I don't drink. Okay, let's get that. But you still high from when you're fucking CEO.
I didn't take my first
Don't
today.
ever accuse me of consuming.
Listen,
shit
I'm not
and
saying nothing controversial. People all over of all walks of
You are
life.
lying.
People of all walks of life do shit. It's just I'm telling a very poorly kept secret that this happens every weekend at every hotel. If you work at a hotel, you know that this shit happens every fucking weekend. There's nobody that works in the hotel services community that doesn't know that this happens.
All right. So Dr. Articulate, so are these people being coerced, right? Are these people being blackmailed?
Well, the main reason that I don't do parties like this anymore is because sometimes they are.
Well, then it's legal. That's illegal.
Sometimes that's my point. So all of those people should get.
Okay, so I looked it up, right? So it says the difference between sex parties and prostitution. There's no direct payment for sex acts. At most sex parties, including hide-in or swinger parties, people pay an interest-free membership dues or event costs, but not directly for the self itself.
Ultra Queen Cuddy, of your Excalibur of your Highness. I had heard a little bird that flew in and walked and told me a couple days ago that they had little open doors up in that bitch in some of the rooms, trap doors. Ain't that about a bitch? Allegedly.
Where?
And cameras.
Oh, in
there you go. No, in the hotels.
Oh, I don't know. I've never worked at a hotel, but Dr. Articulate has, so he can speak on that.
I've worked in a hotel. I've just been to a couple of orgies here and there. But Diddy got found guilty for the prostitution, as he should have. He goes hard because everything else is a fucking sex party.
Yeah, but at the same time, he should have really also been convicted of any type of aggravated prostitution, because there were coercion. There was a lot. People who were coerced into doing this. Let's just keep it real. And the fact that the jury didn't think so, even though the evidence said so, even though eyewitness testimony said so. That's
Thank you for observing and noticing.
My happy gotta be happy she got her money, man. She deserved the money. She got her money. She deserved it. I'm proud of her.
A nigga that still might get 20 years just because he dodged Rico.
My bad, I didn't know y'all heard me say all that shit.
You him? Everybody on this motherfucker make more money than the fucking Elon Musk on this motherfucker.
But what is it?
$1
million fortune in his name and his
he done turned down all the tens.
Just pray for everybody, y'all. Y'all, hello?
Yeah, so all I'm saying is there was more to this case, and I get why the RICO was presented, and unfortunately it suffered. It basically suffered. So,
Royal, do you know this is the first RICO case that the district has lost?
Makes sense.
And Teflon, he's about to be a legend in the red pill community. These women beaters are about to fucking have a rap show over Diddy. The prostitution elevate is true. It's so bad.
to him.
You know what? Queen Lisa, go ahead. I'm sorry. We just wanted to welcome everybody to Politically Correct. Community continues to enable this. We have back to you. Have a beautiful day. Website.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, Ashton.
Hope y'all doing good. Hope y'all doing good enjoying the summer. It's great out here right now. 83 degrees. I'll take that. It's better than 103. Go swimming. Enjoy life, everybody. It's summertime. Time to have fun. Get out and celebrate life. That's what I'm doing.
Ashton, you know it's hot as hell in Texas right now. 255 degrees. Do y'all got some type of like outfits to keep the heat? You feel me? It's hot in Texas, right?
We have a multi-million-dollar pool down the street. You can go use that. There you go. So, hey, there's no end in pools here. They're building them all the time or in resorts. Go ahead.
I don't know. I personally think, and I said this earlier, I think the RICO, it was just a hard case to prove, right? I think a lot of evidence, KK testimony certainly would have helped. I think the guns not being part of the case, that certainly helped Diddy a lot, right? He had all these guns in his different properties. They were scratched off the serial numbers. I personally thought the freak off was a different thing, and this is what I get for listening to Jaguar Wright, because the freak offs that she was describing were sex parties. So I never thought, I just thought this case was gonna be go differently.
Wait, what did you think the freak offs were?
It was a different floor in the party, and that's where it was like group sex. That's what I thought a freak off. And then he was reporting people without their consent and using that to blackmail people. That's how I thought that's what this case was about, right? Because we had all these videos of people. We had hundreds of videos, if not thousands.
Yeah, what happened to those?
Unless.
Yeah, so I'm saying I don't know why that didn't get brought up. And what I said, and I said this a couple days ago, the worst case scenario is that he's guilty of prostitution, which arguably prostitution is legal in at least one state, right? So you're spending millions of dollars, taxpayer money.
But there's specific rules about
No, 100%. Yeah, that I understand. But I just feel like it's not something, I don't know, it's not
they overcharge because
prostitution alone isn't worth pursuing.
They overcharge because he's a creep.
Yeah.
He's a creep. He probably was, remember when he was in jail, still contacting people and doing bullshit? He was just arrogant as fuck, and they wanted to get him, and they overcharged, but they didn't have the
witness tampering. I thought he'd be guilty of that too. To be honest with you, I thought the extortion and the witness tampering, I thought that was to be proven, but I guess,
He got all the charges. He beat the case because I didn't know.
He got convicted of charges, but the biggest charges he was found not guilty.
Yeah, he beat a RICO charge, but he could still get 20 years. So I don't think he's out of the woods yet. But the minimum he could get is 2 years or 20.
But they're saying because he's a first offender, and I'm having problems with this. He's a first offender, that he's going to get the low end of the sentencing
guidelines are. So judges have
sentencing guidelines
that are based off of, how much other stuff you've done previously, Some states they do a pre-trial, what they call it, pre-trial investigation, where they even are looking
I'd rather be me than you, and that's on any good or bad day. Have a good day. Sorry about that, y'all. Ain't that about a bitch?
I don't know what that was. But yeah, so anyway, so
no, that wasn't nice.
They have a score.
Your mother said, no, your mother's amazing, and we want to let you know that. She's beautiful.
Keep it in the chat. If it's in the chat, keep it in the chat. Good gracious. Yeah, they'll have a score, and then based on that score, there's a guideline for what the judge. But the judge can do whatever they want within the law of the. But that's what the guidelines are.
Wait, so the judge does not have to follow the guidelines? They don't have to follow the guidelines. They don't. Now, Lisa, can you type out a letter so you can send that to the judge, please? I'm pinging his ass in here right now.
Now their sentence can get overturned so that's why I was saying, like, this judge, I mean, if they go all the way to the max, I mean, they can say why and all that stuff, but it can get overturned if they don't follow the guidelines. But, but they can make their own choice.
I just want to let y'all know that the first man on Clubhouse that I see that's standing on business is Albert. Yeah, he's holding the men accountable, and I just want to let y'all know that. Thank you.
What does that mean? How feel?
On how they're acting in regards to Diddy being free. He's the only one that's standing on business. Yeah, he has a room open right now, so I'm listening.
How are they acting? Are they being, mischievous or what? What are they saying?
Some of them are woman haters, and they just want it to get off because we just hate women, and that's who they're talking about. Me personally, I don't want to see anybody get convicted of something that they did not prove. I'm sorry. Because I feel like it's a slippery slope, and next thing you know, they'll be sending me to jail for some shit that they didn't prove. I don't want that. That's just me.
But we don't want men hating women. I don't know the details of all. I mean, a lot of dudes, they sleep with women, so why would you then
but they don't like
the very thing you sleep with?
But they don't like them. A lot of times it's because their mom was a fucked up person. Sometimes it's just because they have small brain and a small penis. But it's a lot of them like that.
I don't have no dude, somebody, he gonna hate me. Dude tell me you hate me. You gonna be up out of my house and a plane ticket to DFW airport out of my face. I don't want to be around no dude that say, I hate you, but I'll sleep with you, but I hate you. What the crap? No woman should ever function under that prison.
I think I gotta say it more. Black women, leave these niggas the fuck alone.
Y'all can just listen, please.
Don't let no motherfucker shaming you into not being with nobody. If you down low, you did it for the better.
Is that sweet?
No, this is Albert.
Said audio.
No life's not worth fucking with a nigga like this. His paycheck ain't enough, sis. His money ain't enough. Stop entertaining shit you can do yourself. If you want to go to SDK, you pay for it. Fuck it. Take you and your girls out to eat, man.
How he get on the women? I thought you said he was holding the men accountable.
It's deeper than money.
He's telling the women don't fucking deal with these motherfuckers.
Because I really don't understand.
How
come the history of women?
Y'all be changing.
Well, the room been going on for a while. So the topic is why sympathy for Diddy. So they were speaking on the men, they just speaking on to the women now because obviously the room is packed with women.
You on some fucking bread?
The men ain't gonna come here.
Pussy for money?
Pussy for money, nigga. Oh, excuse me.
Sweet Pea, can you mute up for me, Sweet Pea? Oh, that's Carla. Damn. No, that's not Carla.
Alright, please, I'm at work. Sorry.
Oh shit, you got two, girl. Don't be fucking with me like that. I
got a question. This is a professional environment where we do work. Like, where did the sex come from? Where that at? I didn't know they had another room somewhere in the office. Really? Oh my God, I didn't look. Handle your business, do your thing, bro. I'll see you back after your lunch. Or sister. Allegedly, excuse me.
You paying this guy in, this guy.
I love y'all. I love y'all. Okay.
Coming from you, the things that you said, because it's coming from a place, but I really want to say, I want to thank you for that. I'm hoping the women heard you, because when I said I'm just a bitter old woman who's trying to stop them from getting married, that's that thing where they tell me, this person, she doesn't want y'all to get married. She wants her ass to be lonely. That ain't what I said. And, but I just want to thank you, seriously, for your words today, because you think about it. And I couldn't even see. I refused to watch the video. I think when they first showed that video, or when I saw the first hit, I turned it off, because I just didn't need that in my psyche. I couldn't take that. I couldn't look at it. And so for people, the justifications of the beatings is so profound and crazy to me. But you just said some powerful words. So I just wanted to personally say thank you.
I appreciate it. I do. I don't minimize the edification. But to be honest, Mr. O'Gray, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I don't need to be thanked for this shit. This is a humanistic thing to do. All of us should hold charge to be treating ourselves as human beings first before anything. That's why I despise all this gender shit, man. That's below my pay grade. I'm a child of God. I'm too fucking intelligent to get caught up in shit like that. I gave birth to 3 young gods. I don't do chicken business. I fly with eagles, yo. I don't argue about no fucking gender. I'm not worried about a chick leading in tandem with me. A woman that's gonna reflect me, she's gonna be a leader. I don't want no broke panhandling woman. Because that's a reflection of the man that I am. I'm too intimidated to share my leadership with my mate.
Technically, Dr. Goddess over here.
What? If I make $1 million, she got half of it. Matter of fact, she got more of it than me, because I may fuck it up. What the fuck we talking about? It's all this submissive ass bisexual shit. Weirdo shit. I want to hang with niggas all day. Who don't want a beautiful woman that respects you? Don't you know that you're going to be elevated off the top? Off the top. A woman in...
He sound like he listening to Fat Joe, a big pun in the back.
Nigga.
I'm going to...
Where y'all find these people?
The create our own spaces, girl. We do our own shit, blah, blah, whatever the shit y'all do. Do you know what would happen? Do you know what would happen to social media if women disengage from this gender war shit? Do you think them niggas would sustain anything without y'all to bounce off of?
Nope.
And talk crazy shit too? Kevin Samuels was an old nigga with a red bull until he humiliated a black woman on screen. That nigga he was in a Toyota with them thick ass Harry Potter glasses. Then he brought a woman's presence in the place, and then the nigga blew up. So what happened? Broke niggas emulated that nigga.
What did you say?
Harry Potter glasses.
Man, take a nigga with a red bull trying to get his old dick up.
He said it again, and he took back.
I'm sorry.
What's up, Yana?
It's just so funny that you say that. I was speaking to my little brother, Lil Mike.
You would think the way Albert is speaking that he got 3 daughters and about 3 sons, right?
There's this woman that he really admires, that he really likes. He thinks she's beautiful. And,
anyway.
You know.
My thing is, Mel, we can talk all day. And being a only girl with, my brothers, let me tell you something. And having 2 boys, these lessons need to be taught by men. And I appreciate any man who stands up and points out, the wrong and the harm and the injustice and the disrespect and the battery, all the things that were cast upon these women. It just is refreshing, because I'm sick and tired of hearing us all day, all night, trying to defend or trying to make it clear what happened was not correct. And you don't have to be a fucking brain scientist or anything else to know that what was happening under this man's roof. It's under his house, yes, of course it is. But you can do shit under your roof and get arrested for it. You can do things to your wife, to your kids, to your daughters, or whatever, and get arrested for. And I'm hoping that what my daughter gets out of this is that any man who's going to touch you or do anything to you that you feel like is out of your scope of morality, comfort, or whatever words you guys want to put in there, that she speaks up immediately and not just, let this go on and on for whatever the reason. Because there's a lot of mental health also involved in this. It's just not no woman being greedy for money. Because you would do anything for money? You would have somebody pee in your fucking mouth for money? And you say, yeah, that's on you. That's on you. But once, I'm just hoping that, more men speak on this. Is that's what's going to make a move the needle here, is men speaking on it, instead of us women always having to be up here rah-rahing and caping and shit. We get called all kind of names for trying to have self-respect and decency. So I don't know.
Queen Lisa, I'd like to interject and say, this woman, this queen, melanated sister, she got on her YouTube and said she was just so excited, like she was smiling and just, excited. She said, I'm here in Dubai, and I got shitted on, and I got paid $100,000. I'm like, she's smiling and shit. I'm like, okay, okay. But, we can't knock nobody for what they do, you feel me? But if that's her prerogative, that's her prerogative for her book.
I think we can knock you for that one, though.
Well,
ain't that about it, bitch? Have a bowel movement on you.
On you.
And we, as a society, flush it down the toilet, and then we wipe ourselves, and then we wash our hands with antibacterial, and then we spray stuff in the bathroom because we don't want other people to know. So now we get to the point now that we're coming on social media and we're bragging about having human fecal waste. Whatever. Yeah, you guys got it. It's an individual preference. I get it.
And furthermore, Queen, if we were to go into the actual scientific and environmental, agricultural standpoint of shit, doesn't shit grow the food that we eat? The food that we eat come from shit?
Stop playing ultra.
I'm sorry. The only thing that didn't come from shit was the concrete road. We don't know how that concrete road to the fucking concrete.
But they don't use human. Come on, bro. Come on, man. They don't use human biological waste to process our food. They use cow manure and other things like that. Go pick it up.
What other species Ashton shit on each other?
The cows don't do that.
Somebody as a sign of affection and a sexual attraction. Just help me out.
I don't know if